This got to be my most favorite video to make because it's unbelievably powerful and it's full of speculation, actually. It's called World War III, or World War Women. We have on our clocks, the entire clock of humanity is turning at 1.4.3.3. I call it the Battle Royale tick, or opening to criticism part. Now, I'm not sure if it's gonna happen, or maybe it's gonna be the next part. The Battle Royale is like saying it was 5 years since we had this urge of Hunger Games turning into Minecraft stuff, survival. We can call this a sandbox. But first we established like this internet thing, that we have this Battle Royale. Simply put, that only a few can become successful because they are overwhelmingly more powerful than others. And this idea is constantly being recreated in games at the moment. This idea of competition, right? That only 1% succeed to begin with, overwhelmingly succeed, and that's the only thing that matters, is getting the first place in anything. And the point is that everyone is capable of achieving that at this point. Everyone has the opportunity to achieve this because they get the opportunity to compete in the first place and claim the authority at this point. But it's more of a capitalistic claim. If you look at a clock, it's at 3.3. It's more of a fame claim rather than authority claim. People look up to you because they want to be entertained, not look up to you because they want to learn something. That's a big difference. This is so fascinating to me because I put down this clock and it tells me exactly what's going on. Like, what the fuck, right? It says 3.3. It says that we care about capital, not authority. And that's exactly how it plays out right now. I say open to criticism. It's probably going to be the next era after 5 years. Maybe we're going to figure out that being open to criticism, I even saw a Jim Carrey presentation for this. Being open to criticism is exactly the next step in our conversations. Exposing people is big, but most importantly, it's exposing people that are not open to criticism. There's a very profound idea here. I might expand on that later in another video, because this idea could quickly fix YouTube, for example. If there is a special place where people tag themselves as they are open to criticism, and only people who are open to criticism can criticize others at the same time. If you're a viewer of that content, you must also be open to criticism in order for your criticism to work. It's very interesting. If you just write a comment, you have to be open, right? You cannot just say kill yourself, because now you have to answer why and all these things. If you don't do that, you're shut down in one way or the other. I'm not exactly sure how it's gonna work out, how the shutting down process works. When you get exposed that you're not open to criticism, and you try and manipulate, you try and accept, but not exactly accept the criticism, you just pretend to be accepting of it. There's so many things that are happening which fall under manipulation that cannot be happening when you declare yourself as open to criticism, because you will think about it, you will change your behavior, you will listen to another person. That's how conversation is supposed to look like, right? We cannot have a debate if both sides are not open to criticism. We cannot even have interesting things being discussed for that matter. I guess that's why podcasts are also pretty much on the rise, alongside which with gaming, we do a lot of gaming. We like to still learn on the side. We like audiobooks too. Like these things are sort of on the rise, but it is not a trend. It is not something that people are into to fight each other in a critical way, to express their opinions and stand for their own personalities. You're building your own internet personality as you're standing up to criticism. And there's going to be a very handful of people that first of all care and are capable of caring. So you will necessarily be able to respond to all the criticism, because there's just a handful of people that are capable of doing it. Other people are just going to be filtered out and shut down and proven to be not open and manipulative and completely irrational. That's very important as we move on to the last stages of this world. The last sticks, as I would call them, which are very revealing of what's going to happen very soon, because the system that we live in is not scientism necessarily. The scientism comes from socialism. The number 1 is our primary number right there. Socialism is where everything starts, and when the reset button hits, socialism will stick around. As I've said, it's going to become modern socialism. It's going to be a place where it's going to be more about communism, right? We have communities that we belong to. We sort of understand our identity just enough to go to a certain community and establish ourselves there. Let's say I like developing games, and I have this idea of ray tracing that's seemingly much more important than how we render games at the moment. And also, I just kind of hate a lot of games, and there's not a lot of puzzle games. There's a very interesting category that I belong to in terms of game development. The game development is a huge community, but you will have very handful of communities also belong to this community, which is self-development, which is a lot bigger than what I just described the previous community to be. The self-development, however, is more of a side thing. Yes, I could be a big thing if I nail down the main principles and I become, win the battle royale of people. Because now you have a sort of like this personality that people look up to see what's up. It's not about authority again. If you win a battle royale, people just want to see what's up. Because most of the time they're going to suspect you of cheating or bending the rules. That's very important. Anyway, so we're going to hit that reset button on our clocks pretty much. A lot of things are going to change. The authority is going to disappear. The governments are going to disappear. But one interesting thing that's happening is the suppression of women. Because I think women inhabit numbers 1 and 2 in general. And right now we're just clustering with no hope for women. And that hope is going to accumulate. There's a little bit of that. As we still live under number 1, we're still going to live in number 2 for a long time. But the numbers 3 and 4 are clocking for a long time right now. One tick last for about 10, 11 years. So as I say, 5 years and we're gonna get out of this battle royale stage. We're gonna go to something else. I'm hoping it's gonna be open to criticism stage, where people realize how to actually do conversations. Now, my first question for this World War III is what's going to happen? Like, first two world wars, we can say that men were fighting. But now we're sort of going into this psychological warfare, where I think women are going to strike back. Not only the socialism is really getting ugly at the moment, because it's really getting old and showing its stupidity. We live under socialism, essentially. The authorities are listening to socialists right now. The most prominent men in a society listen to the most prominent women, which are their wives. They do the work, but they have to listen to the wives. They're totally manipulated. You think the highest authority, but like, no. We sort of live under this Twilight theme, where the most prominent man, the vampire, the authority, is listening to that little shit. That's not a vampire, doesn't live forever, but totally dominates the guy. And then it inspired the series called 50 Shades of Grey. Talks about the same thing. You sort of have this innocent player, a woman, quickly dominating over the authority figure. It's like, wow, okay. That's what's happening right now. And women are compelled by the story because they know deep down that there is hope, because they still are in control in a way. It's just kind of weird. But, however, we have a completely new crisis. We have more women than men at the moment in this society. Think about what it does to society. Think about how socialism bends around this concept. The relationships now are unstable on the other hand. Yes, back in the day we had people going into war, pretty much. And a lot more women sort of stayed back and sort of formed their communities in a way. I'm not sure, like, we probably were hitting 4.2 back in the war stages. Yeah, I say this 1.4.2 was population explosion. This is again where women dominated for a little while longer, and after the war and after the population explosion, now we completely care about the most popular figures, Jake Paul, Justin Bieber, whatever. The men are the most popular figures, not the women, by far. And we're gonna continue going that path for like 50 years. Think about it. 50 years we're gonna fucking struggle and push down women so far. Something's gonna happen about this. It's gonna be a psychological warfare. Think about this as well. Right now I had a situation where my friend sort of exposes another bisexual couple of women. And it's like, you would normally think about gays, men gays. That's great. But if that's a higher trend, if there are a lot of male gays, and you have a lot of people like me who follow their passions and don't give a fuck about relationships, because relationships are gonna ruin the passion. They're gonna interfere. They're gonna be a road bump. It's not gonna help me. It's gonna hurt. I've tried to get into the game, as I've said. The game is completely rigged. People don't know what they want. They don't know what they are trying to achieve, or what dating is all about. None of that is happening. None of that is obvious to them. So I'm being quickly rejected, and I have to just go on, do my own thing. Men are going their own way. Think about what's happening to women right now. How difficult it is to find anyone to have a relationship with and to become a proper woman at the moment. It is insanity for them. However, they're hopeful enough. They can create their own persona on the internet. They can become high on social media. They get a lot of drugs that they can use for themselves, a lot of addictions in various forms. They can forget about all of this shit. At some point, it's not going to be that easy to forget. It's just not going to be easy. At some point, women will figure this out, will get this message specifically, and will attack anyone who tries to hide from them in the most vicious way. That's my prediction. Something is going to happen with them. They will want revenge, so to speak. It's kind of weird. I call this like a petrified people discovered and being mined by girls. Mining people, pulling them out of their caves into relationships. And that will be the purpose. The moment dating gets a purpose, it's a completely different game. And it could be a game against you, completely rigged against you. Not only dating will be rigged, but it's going to be trying to attack you, trying to pull you into society back in, because, again, we live under socialism. However, there's one escape route. You can declare that you're not socialist anymore. You're communist. That you live for the future. Regardless of how far that future is, we're going to press that reset button and everything converts to communism. We're gonna have to find our group, and we're gonna live within our group, because the independence has grown so far to where we don't necessarily need other countries. We don't need the entire government to support us. We can have our own community, and we're gonna be just fine, regardless of how many people like or dislike us. So we're gonna be fine. And we can form our communities. And that is how the society is going to work. The entire human race is going to find their communities to build. This is what I've been looking forward to, in a way. I was trying to kind of build my own, a team of people to go through this rough time. I didn't really understood fully what kind of apocalypse are we dealing with. I was just thinking in terms of crisis. What is going to happen economically speaking, I have no idea. But there is a very simple thing. The women are getting depressed. Wait until they get anxious. That's gonna be interesting. I do believe that's about it. Just as a reminder, again, we live under socialism, and the authority listen to that socialism. Number 4 represents authority. Number 1 is socialism, which is higher authority. The people who run the government listen to the people who complain. And the complainers say, we need diversity, we need to stop racism, we need to do this and that to sort of secure social equality, and it is a destructive idea at this point. It's an old idea, and it's still lingering around. That is crazy. And it's gonna have its consequences. We're at least happy that we had this population explosion. In a way we're happy, because there are a lot of crazy innovations coming from the Battle Royale stage, where the most prominent people are capable of pushing forward the human race, pushing through the masses and masses of people. They give crazy advancements, and we're happy for those people. We're not happy for science, we're happy for individuals who have pushed, someone like Nikola Tesla. Right? We're using a lot of technology that's based on his inventions. So we need to be grateful for those people. There are a very small amount of them that really pushed us forward. And then there are followers that also pushed forward, who followed the inventions. So there's, at least the clock seems to work just fine. And I at least am capable of predicting the future. And that makes me happy. See you guys later.